So I've now run an entire indoor season in the new Adidas Adizero Prime SP3 sprint spikes from Adidas. Today I'm going to be reviewing them, how I found them personally, and how they compare to other products on the market. If you're new here, my name's Harvey. I'm a UK-based sprinter and I'm aiming to break 11 seconds in the 100-meter sprint this summer in 2025. I'm coming off the back of a very successful indoor season where I got a new PB of 7.12 in these spikes, and I also made my first county championship final since 2022. So for the last couple of years, I've been wearing Nike Maxfly spikes. I've gone through 2 pairs of these, and in both pairs, I've managed to burst a bubble. So I decided this year to go with a slightly different approach and pick up the Adidas Adizero Prime SP3s. Now these are slightly different. They don't have the same bubble technology. They've got a Lighstrike Pro foam. So they've still got a similar concept to the Maxflys and all the other super spikes out there, where they give you a high return in energy per step. And in theory, this should make you faster and be able to endure your speed for longer. To be completely honest, I bought the Maxflys originally because I just wanted the best sprint shoe on the market to help me run as fast as I could. I think overall, if you do pick a super spike, whether it's the Prime SP3s, whether it's the new Maxflys, or whether it's the Puma, New Balance, or whatever else alternative option to the super spike, I think you're going to do pretty well. I think there's very little difference between them, and I think ultimately it comes down to personal preference. The Adidas do have a super thin heel, and I think this potentially could limit some people. I think all sprint spikes are very thin, but I found that the Adidas has a slightly wider toe box and a slightly narrower heel. And Maxflys are sort of a more all-round medium from heel to forefoot. These are also a super stiff shoe. I think these are probably the stiffest shoe on the market. There is no giving these at all. They've got a full carbon plate. As someone that is really into short sprinting, in the block start where I want to stay low and I want my ankle not to collapse under each stride, this shoe really helps to do that. As you kind of press in, it's going to lock in and it's going to help your Achilles stay nice and stiff in those first few strides. I think the combination of the carbon plate and the Lighstrike Pro foam gives you a really good energy return, and I think that these are going to help carry me through to the 100s and 200s this year. Personally, after now running for a full indoor season in these, I prefer these to the Maxflys. They're a lot stiffer. I don't see how you could pop a bubble on these. And as someone that's popped 2 bubbles on the Maxflys, I'm very happy with these now. They feel great on your foot. I never quite got used to the sound and the feel of the bubble, whereas this feels more like running in a traditional spike with all the added benefits of a super spike. Now, I picked these up as soon as they came out, pretty much for the full price of £170 in the UK. I have seen online now they're as low as half price, £85, if they've still got your size in stock. So you can pick these up for really cheap, relatively, for a super spike. As new colorways come out, the older colorways will inevitably be cheaper. And if you're not bothered about how they look or finding a particular color, I'd always recommend going for a previous colorway if they've got your size. Much cheaper, and it's the exact same shoe. If you are particular about the color though, and you do want the latest and greatest, then paying full price for these is definitely not a mistake. I think they're a great sprint spike, and I'm very excited to run my summer season in these new spikes and see how fast I can run. In terms of starting, I generally have found that for super short distances, 10, 20, 30 meters, that I tend to get better times in traditional spikes with no foam underneath. I don't know if this is, to do with me not being used to them, or the fact that I train a lot in an alternative spike to try and limit the stress on my joints and tendons with the full carbon plate. But that's something I have noticed in super spikes across the board, including my previous 2 sets of Maxflys. And I have seen some of the pros take a preference to wearing a more traditional spike in something like a 60 meter. And then for 100 and 200, you won't see any of the top guys not wearing a super spike. So maybe this is just me. Maybe there is something there, but I think there's a very, very, very short drop off in your ability to get to those very short distances quick. However, I think that the benefit of being able to hold your speed for longer, especially in the 100, 200, and even the 400, massively outweighs the downside. This is my shoe of choice going forward into all my races into the outdoor season, and I ran all my indoor races, even the 60, something as short as the 60, in this shoe, and I got a new PB this year. They're made of sort of this strung upper, which you know, everyone's coming out with new new ways to, you know, materialize the top of their shoe, and I do prefer this to Nike's Fly Weave. I think ultimately the goal is to keep them super lightweight. These are super light. So super lightweight, 195 grams in a size 9.5 UK. Obviously this will vary slightly based on your size. The smaller the shoe, the lighter it's going to be. The larger the shoe, the heavier it's going to be. But it's super lightweight, 200 grams or less, you know, for most sizes. And it's not too uncomfortable either. Sprint spikes are never going to be the most comfortable trainers, but yeah, I think they've done a great job. I think it looks great. You know, looking down on these shoes, I feel very confident. I feel like it looks like a fast shoe, as most sprint spikes are. But looking down at the Maxflys, I always thought they're a little bit square. You know, this looks like it kind of fits the shape of your foot a lot more. For me, it locks my ankle in much better in the heel. I get barely any ankle movement in this. You're barely going to feel these on your feet. This is going to allow your legs to get a much higher turnover than if you're wearing a heavier shoe, and hence make you run faster. Key things I look for in a sprint spike in 2025 is a full carbon plate for that maximum energy return and stiffness, some form of foam, whether it's the Lighstrike Pro for Adidas, whether it's the bubbles for the Maxflys, Nike Maxflys, something to give that energy return to improve the speed endurance. I also look for something that's going to fit my foot really well. You don't want your foot, you know, wobbling around while you're running. Equally, you don't want there to be no blood in your foot and you can't feel where your feet are whilst you're sprinting at full speed. You need to know where your feet are and where you're going to place them. But you need to have that maximum control of a snug fitting shoe as well. You also get this bag with it, which, to be honest, it's not the best bag. They've got sort of this, you know, meshy material on the back, and the spikes always get caught on it when I put them the wrong way around. They do have separation between each spike, which is good, and they give you a bag, which is good. I probably prefer the Nike Maxfly drawstring bag that you get. You know, this is sort of almost like a, you know, shopping bag, handbag type thing. So, you know, it's not the best bag that comes with it, but you know, that's not the main criteria for me. They obviously give you a tool. You know, the spikes do come out of this shoe. I know some of them don't now. So you are able to put Christmas tree spikes and things if you need to for complying with whatever track you're running on. I tend to prefer what they send you, just the regular steel pyramids. And that's usually my spike of choice, no matter what spike I'm wearing. Thank you very much for watching my review. Hope you found it useful. If you are thinking of purchasing the Adidas Adizero Prime SP3s, I would highly recommend them. I think they're on a par with Maxflys. I think maybe Adidas and Nike are probably a step, you know, minuscule step above the rest, but all of them across the board are going to be great spikes if you choose any super spike that fits your foot and that you feel confident running in. But if you are going to go ahead with these, then I would highly recommend them. There's no risk of popping bubbles like with Maxflys, and I don't think, if there is any performance differences, that's potentially worth it. I might change my mind. I've only had these for about 6 months or so, but yeah, I'm looking forward to running outdoors in these sprint spikes. If you do enjoy these videos and you'd like to see more, don't forget to drop a like, subscribe. I also post my training weekly, and at the moment I'm aiming to break 11 seconds in the 100 meters. So subscribe to follow along with that. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment if there's something else you'd like me to review or something you'd like to see in an upcoming video. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.